Oh,
Here we go. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Turn Back the Clock, episode number 12. My name's Dylan, and I'm joined by Adam, Splendid Sports, my co-host, and we have an extra special guest today, Shane, Shoebox Legends. Welcome, guys.
how's it going?
There you
Hello.
go.
We had so many people say that we're never watching again unless you have Shane back. So here we are.
Dude, we need to make this professional. We need to have the pro in town.
Yep,
He makes it legitimizes our show.
that's right.
So if you guys aren't familiar with Turn Back the Clock, what we do is turn back the clock a little bit. We show some pickups. We talk about some things relevant in the hobby or things to come or just topics that we want to talk about. And tonight we're going to do some pickups, and then we're going to talk about player collecting. And maybe we're going to pick top 10 of all the sports that we think are the most collected players and give our opinions on why. And we're gonna cover a vast variety of sports tonight. I'm in charge of surfing because I collect surfing cards, so I'm gonna be in charge of surfing. And then Shane, he might have a couple different ones, and Adam's got a couple different sports too. So football, basketball, baseball, and anything else they want to talk about. But first and foremost, let's show some pickups from the last couple weeks. Shane, you want to go first?
Yeah, I got three here to show. I'll keep it quick. First one is parallel that I've been grabbing recently. It's the red foil out of Topps flagship baseball. This is the 2023. Got this actually on ComC. Just got my order in this week. These are numbered to 199 every year, and I love the team color match with the Angels. So I have a little run of these going for Trout cards. So cheap pickup is $25. Can't go wrong.
Was that one numbered?
Yeah, 199.
Oh, 199. That's epic. I love the
team color matching.
Yes.
Flagship Topps, 199 for $25. Most collectible player in baseball, relevant for tonight's episode. Then going way back, from a 2023 card to a pre-war card. Got this one actually in the mail today. This is a Hal Chase T206. And the reason I grabbed this one, I just finished The Glory of Their Times. I actually did the audiobook by Lawrence Ritter. So he interviewed a ton of pre-war players, like dead ball era players. And I was just amazed listening to that book, how many of them listed Hal Chase as one of the absolute greats of the day. And most of them agreed that he was the best fielder of the dead ball era at any position. He played first base. But he was like notoriously corrupt and is known as like the most crooked player in the history of baseball. He gambled. He tried to influence people with bribes, take money from his teammates, throw games. He was actually involved, or at least investigated in the Black Sox scandal as well, although ultimately he was acquitted. But won a batting title in 1916. So really interesting guy. And I just love anything this old, and listening to that audiobook kind of inspired me to get out there and get a couple more pre-war cards, I guess.
That's awesome. That's an epic card. Epic story. That book they're talking about. Anyone out there, can you give the title again?
Yeah, The Glory of Their Times, it's called.
Greatest book ever. The Audible version.
Yeah, what's great about it, I've heard you talk about it too, Dylan, but the book is comprised of these interviews that he did. But the Audible version is the actual audio of the interview. So you're hearing, guys that played from, 1900 through the 1920s, just giving kind of cool stories about things that happened on the field. And it was wild back then. But I thought this was an interesting card. And unlike a lot of the guys from that era, for somebody of his skill level, this was like $100. It's maybe not in great shape, but the back is fine. There's no paper loss or anything. So somebody who's kind of got a place like that in baseball history, card that old for $100. They can't all be good guys, so I like collecting kind of the not so nice guys as well.
That's awesome.
And then I got,
Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, you can't beat that. I got one more pickup. I've talked about this guy before, but I kind of became a fan of Rick Wise, longtime pitcher in the 60s and 70s. because of a game that he had in 1971, I think it was, where he no-hit the Cincinnati Reds and he hit 2 home runs in the same game. It was like one of the best, single performances of anyone in baseball history. And recently I found this, I think I might have shared this with you, Dylan, but got this PSA authenticated, PSA DNA autographed version of his shared rookie card with Dave Bennett out of the 1964 Topps release. So nice, ballpoint pen auto there. And it's a quirky player collection, just from him pitching that one game, but I enjoy collecting them. And this was $20.50. So just can't beat the price, and a cool item for the collection.
That's awesome. Yeah. $20, 3 autographs in a slab. Like it's
Wow.
basically, they paid you to take that card. It's amazing.
That's it.
Awesome pickup, Shane. Adam, what do you got for us?
So I figured since this is episode 12, I got to show some Tom Brady cards. With Tom Brady, he has so many cards and so many expensive cards that as a player collector of Brady, you're never going to get all his cards. You're never going to complete like a run of all, even his rookie cards or anything like that. So I try to find like little mini runs within his cards that I can complete. And one of them is there's an insert. Are you guys familiar with Hobby Masters? It's a Topps insert. He's only in 3 of them that I know of. So I completed recently the run of the 3 cards. Really cool looking inserts. They're not numbered or anything, but here's his first one. Look how shiny this card is.
Wow.
This is from 2002. And wow, look at that thing. It looks even better on the screen here than it does in person. So I got his
career too.
They got these for baseball too. I don't know a ton about the insert, but I just know as far as like on his checklist, he only has 3 of these. So now I have all of them. And here's the one he had from 2006. Look at the designs. So these were, just Topps inserts. And this is his last one in 2007. This was the hardest one to get for some reason.
Are these tough to find, or is it the condition that makes them tough?
Yeah, they're since they're not serial numbered, they're not like super rare. But they're all. I tried to get them all on PSA 10, which I did. So that's an example of grading, creating scarcity, and making it a fun chase. But yeah, you could find raw copies or lower graded ones pretty easily. But the PSA 10s are tough. I think on this 2007. There's only 2 10s. So,
wow.
Yeah. And not a ton of the other ones either. So for whatever reason, I don't know, it just maybe because of the foil or the way it was designed, it just doesn't grade well. So got all 3 of those babies now.
Nice.
Dude, that's insane. I remember all those old inserts, and when we were pulling packs back then, the inserts were like, they were nothing. I remember just like throw them on eBay. $2, $2. And they're so collectible. I know Kobe's inserts from that era are like ridiculous, from the 97s and 98, 99, 96. The inserts are crazy money. And the common insert, they're not like rare. There's like 1 in every pack or 1 in every 2 packs of certain players. It's fun to see those being collected now. And in slab, they look good. And like you said, you get the chase. The grade gives it the rarity of it, which does make it fun as a collector if you're into that type of thing. So really cool. Awesome pickups. Is that all you got?
Yeah, just those 3.
All right. Well, I got 3 as well. And then one of these just showed up today, and I actually purchased, I watched a game where right after they announced that Shohei had 500 Ks and 100 home runs, and he tied Babe Ruth. And I hit up Shane, Shoebox Legend, and I go, dude, I hope they make a card, Topps Now. I never bought a Topps Now the next day before of that moment, and they did. And so I bought 5 of these, and they literally just arrived right before the show. And I bought one for Shane specifically. So that's pretty cool. He's on the show, and I get to send this off. And just a really cool, awesome combo card. Spectacular. And he's bound on a couple Babe Ruth cards, I think rookie too. I missed those ones, but I wanted to get this one. I'll probably look through these in the scope and send them off to get a couple of them off to get graded, just to have in my collection because I'm crazy like that.
Are you saying? Wait, hold on. Are you now setting the precedent that any guest who comes on our show here gets an Ohtani card or a Babe Ruth card or both? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know about that, but we might work something in the future. That'd be awesome. Next card is, so I told everybody that I hadn't bought a card since May 4th. I broke it. I broke down and I bought one card. I was just on eBay. I was listing a bunch of stuff. And then I was like, well, I'll just look. And it happened to be ending. And I looked at this card for years and years. I've never owned one. And I bought this. I won this for $50. And this is Hank Aaron. And it fits my criteria perfectly. A beautiful 1962 Topps All-Star Hank Aaron card in an SGC 4. Pretty much perfectly centered. It looks really, really nice. The back's really nice. I haven't even read the card. This showed up in the mail today as well. So I'm still going to hold off on buying cards, but I was listing a bunch and I sold some. So I'm like, I'll take a peek and there you go. And I found one. Another card I've had for a while. I don't think I've ever shared it, but it ties in double with today. And this is a Mike Trout 2022 Topps Rip. It's a Rip Tide, and there's a wave in the back. So this goes along with my surfing theme of today and all the great surfers that I'm going to talk about. And Mike Trout, probably the most collected ultra modern or player who's still playing the game today. And this one is numbered to 30. I think this was $20, just an 8. I don't know what it's worth. I just wanted it because it was awesome wave, really cool card for my collection. So those are my pickups.
That's a perfect card for you. That is like that card was made for you right there.
Yeah, I agree. I had to have it. I was so stoked. All right. Well, without further ado, let's go into it. What sport do we want to start off with?
Yeah, let me start with this because this was kind of my idea for this episode, this topic. I've always found it interesting to think about. I think we know a lot of them, but who are the most collected players? So if you were to somehow get everyone in the sports card hobby together and you polled them and all the player collectors and you said, who do you collect? Who would be the most in baseball, basketball, football for me? So what I did is without looking at anything really, I just kind of off the top of my head feel from what I've heard and seen and stuff like that. Some of it's obvious, but I made a list of, and I know Shane, you did too, of what we think are the 10 most heavily collected. So there's the biggest collector base because, it is important because at the end of the day, when you hear everyone talking about prices of sports cards and all this stuff, at the end of the day, there has to be, for a player's values and so forth of his cards to go up or maintain or whatever, there needs to be a strong collector base. That's at the end of this whole thing. At this game of buying and selling, you need collectors that want the cards more than the money. So I made a list. Now I started with we're only looking at players that are no longer playing. We're going to get into a little active player things at the end here. But for the purpose of this, I made a list of who I think are the 10 most collected baseball players that are no longer playing. So number 10, I have a pitcher, Sandy Koufax. I put Koufax at number 10. I have Ernie Banks at number 9, Stan Musial, Ted Williams, Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, Jackie Robinson, Clemente. This might be a surprising one, Ken Griffey Jr., and then number 1, Mickey Mantle. So we could talk about that, but Shane, do you want to give your list here?
Yeah, so I had a lot of overlap with you, a couple minor changes, but some of the same names I had at number 10, surprising choice, but I went with Barry Bonds just because he is widely collected. Number 9, I had Ted Williams, who was on your list, Jackie Robinson at number 8, Roberto Clemente. Number 7, mixed it up a little bit at number 6 with Ricky Henderson, just because I think as far as the 80s and into the 90s goes, he was the guy. Then at number 5, I had Willie Mays, 4, Hank Aaron, and then I had 3 to me, the top three on my list are kind of like heads and tails above those other seven. And number one is Mickey Mantle. I agree. He was, the golden boy of baseball during the golden era of baseball, 50s and 60s is Mantle. Number two, I actually had Nolan Ryan. He's the only pitcher on my list also, but just huge name in the hobby, spanned a ton of years, was still successful, when the boom era hit, like in the early 90s. So he was, kind of a king of the hobby at that time. And then number three, I actually did have Ken Griffey Jr. On my list also, just because, anyone I think who's around our age and remembers back, like in the 90s, he was the man. If you were opening a pack of cards, you wanted the kid, you wanted Ken Griffey Jr. And I think he's a hobby titan.
You know what's interesting about Ken Griffey Jr. is I'm noticing there's a lot of Ken Griffey Jr. collectors, but they're not chasing his 89 Upper Deck. They're chasing his 98 or 97 inserts, all these like inserts from his 10th year or whatever. Those are the big money cards. It's not his rookie cards. So
right.
It's very interesting how it's a little different than what we see with like these vintage guys, where the rookie cards, and obviously it's because of population and junk wax era, but it's just, there is a heavy collector base for Griffey, just not the cards we all thought when we were kids.
I have a couple friends who are, heavy into the Griffey sphere, I guess, and it's like a whole nother world of just tons of money being thrown at those rare Griffey cards. So it's playing with the big boys for sure.
I know you probably didn't make a list, but of those guys we mentioned, is there anyone that you had in your head that we didn't mention as far as baseball?
We lost them.
Am I gone?
I don't know.
Oh, I hear you, Adam. I hear you. I think Dylan may have lost us for a second.
Oh, maybe.
Dylan, what I was saying is,
I heard you. Yeah, I heard you. I heard you.
What guy? Is there any guys in that that we didn't mention that you had in your head for baseball players that you think are heavily collected that we didn't say?
Are you asking me?
Yes, Dylan.
Oh, I thought you were asking Shane. That's why I was like, hey, he's not answering. Right. Did we mention Babe Ruth?
No, I thought about adding him, and he might be in this list, but his cards are so expensive. He doesn't have a lot of cards and are so expensive that I don't think there's as many people that want to go down that. I mean, they want to, but they just can't. They can't go down that route. Yeah,
I feel like those guys are. I don't know. It's kind of hard to say because with them printing all the new stuff of Babe Ruth and stuff, I find myself being attracted to more Babe Ruth's cards. Like a lot of the refractors and numbered cards, I've told myself so many times, like, man, I really want to start collecting all those numbered Babe Ruth cards that are printed today, the refractors and stuff. So I do think that there's going to be, I know there's guys out there doing it. I'm sure, it's tough to collect Babe Ruth, but I think it would be really fun to collect modern cards of Babe Ruth as well. So, and I could totally see myself in the future buying them and going down that rabbit hole completely.
So, and kind of the next step on this, and obviously in the comments, guys, let us know who you think, what your list would be or whatever. But I kind of wanted to take it to the next level, which is, Shane, what do you think is like, what's the biggest factor that goes into someone becoming heavily collected, a player? Is it on his career? Is it the era that his cards were printed in, playing days cards? What do you think is like the biggest factor, or at least some of the factors that go into that?
Yeah, you touched on two of them. I actually think the career is one of the least important. Like, obviously, ironically, you're not on this list if you didn't have a great career. You're not going to be one of the most collected guys unless you were a great. But not all greats are on the list. Like, look at, Eddie Murray or players like that, amazing players. And like, as far as the hobby goes, nobody really cares. So I think maybe it's charisma. And I think the era that you came up in, like Mantle benefits from being, the golden boy during at the inception of Topps as a brand, all those great 50s sets and kind of that old Sandlot style or feel of baseball. Like, he's the name you think of. when you think of baseball history. So he really benefits from that. And I think Griffey, the same thing. He's an amazing player, 600 home runs. He has that charisma, which I think is another thing that you need. If you just quietly kind of go about your job and do a great job, I don't know that really gets you noticed in the hobby. But also just the fact that he broke out in '89 as the hobby was breaking out, and he had that upper deck rookie, and he was like associated with that hobby boom. And I think he did benefit from that. So I think era matters, as well as kind of that it factor that certain athletes have, where they almost like transcend their sport or just become like a celebrity beyond whatever sport they happen to play.
Yeah, and, I think the team and city you play in too. Like even a guy like I mentioned, Ernie Banks. I know Dylan, you love Ernie Banks cards. Probably maybe your favorite guy to collect. He played for the same team his whole career. The Cubs, great fan base, great history in that team. So I think that plays a big role, especially with the vintage guys.
Yeah, and big market teams too. Like Harmon Killebrew played his career in Minnesota, and he just didn't get the attention versus like a Willie Mays who played in New York and San Francisco, or anybody on the Yankees or even Red Sox.
Dylan, do you want to bring up? So I thought as kind of a next step. Now this isn't going to obviously tell the full picture or anything, but it's a piece of information that maybe can give a little insight into what we're talking about. So I thought I shared the PSA set registry list of most collected player sets. So if you want
really
to
cool. Yeah, let's pull that up. That was awesome.
Because obviously a very, very small percentage of the hobby collects just graded cards. Some collect maybe some graded cards, but there's a lot that don't collect graded cards that don't, and even if they don't do the set registry. Very small percentage do the set registry, but this does give, I think, a little insight. So yeah, what we see here, guys, is they break it up into 70 and back, 1970 and back, and then modern players. So as we thought, not only is Mickey Mantle the top guy, but he has the two top sets in the registry. His basic set and his basic top set are number 1 and number 2.
Wow. What surprised me? No one talked about Derek Jeter.
Right.
That's a good one.
He's on. Yeah, that kind of should have been a no-brainer for us to think about. Thurman Munson, that surprises me right there on the modern side. You guys see any other surprises? Al Kaline, that's kind of a surprise. He's on the list, but he was, did he play for the one team the whole time? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. He played. Yeah. Oh, you said Kaline?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was the Tigers. Yeah.
Yeah. So that makes sense. Guys like that kind of, that solidifies you, in my opinion.
Shane, you nailed it, man, with Nolan Ryan. That was one that I thought of him, but I didn't think he would be that. He is really highly collected.
Yeah, I think he had the benefit of playing in 4 different decades, and even though he was kind of an old man by the time the boom era came around, he was still pitching no hitters. Like I think he pitched his 6th and 7th no hitters like after the hobby exploded. So he was still like a super relevant name. When I was a kid, he was like the guy. Early 90s.
You know who else really jumped out at me that I didn't really think of is Roger Maris. Roger Maris is up there with Ted Williams, ahead of like Kaline and Brooks Robinson. Some of these guys have multiple sets, but it was interesting how high up Roger Maris is, a non-Hall of Famer in that collecting list.
Yeah, insane, right? I mean, it's just because the history and all the movies have been about Roger Maris. I mean, even if you don't know baseball, I feel like you know who Roger Maris is, just like you would know who Mickey Mantle is. Kind of, those two guys to me go hand in hand, even though they didn't play together for that long.
Yep.
Baseball is a game of stats, right? That's what everybody cares about. It's one of the things that makes it so great, and the home run is the stat that fans care about the most. So there's no better way to end up on this list than by hitting a lot of home runs. That's the reason I included Barry Bonds, on my list, for better or worse, and probably the primary reason Hank Aaron is as high on the list as he is. Not that he wasn't great in a lot of other ways, but the home run is just a very hallowed mark.
Absolutely. Wait, where's Barry Bonds? I don't even see him on the list.
No, Barry Bonds. Down.
That surprises me.
Let me see. No, yeah, certain guys like Ichiro doesn't even have a player set. Guys, I looked up Ichiro, Pujols, barely anyone collecting them on the registry. So, I know they're a little newer, but yeah, there's not a big collector base for those players at least on the registry.
I mean, it's generational. I mean, everyone talks about generational guys. Ken Griffey Jr., that's all. When you come up to bat, when you're playing wiffle ball at home, my generation, I was born in 1980, all the way, I was Ken Griffey Jr., 9 years old, 10 years old. I'm Ken Griffey Jr. up to bat, even though I was right-handed. I was never Juan Gonzalez, or I was never Barry Bonds. I was Ken Griffey Jr. I think the kids playing now are probably want to be Mike Trout. They come at the bat, they want to be Mike Trout. Just like everyone wanted to be Mickey Mantle back in the day. I think that goes a long way. Obviously, I mean, stats are king, and those guys were the best. Ken Griffey was the best, Mike Trout was the best, and Mickey Mantle was, arguably the best for a time.
And just best in the hobby, the hobby loves them the best. Yeah. So
absolutely.
I guess next question before we could move on to a different sport after this, but who do you guys see that's playing right now? You mentioned Trout. I see a couple other guys on this list. Juan Soto has a decent amount of people putting his registry together. Aaron Judge. Do you see, or is there any? Or obviously, Ohtani's up there with 140 set people building a set. Who do you think, after their careers are over, that is playing right now will be in the conversation?
I think Ohtani is going to be in the conversation. I think he's just building. I mean, he's young. I think people forget he's not 35 years old. He's young, and everyone just gave up on him after he got hurt after his first season. The guy's a fit man. He's not, even if he gets hurt again, he's going to come back again. And if he gets hurt again, he's going to come back again. He's not even close to the end of his time. He's too good of an athlete. Unless something tragic happens, I think he is going to be one of the most popular players to ever play baseball when his time is done. Just the way he plays it and the way he's bringing, just everyone together. It's just a phenomenal thing to see. I think he's going to be the most collected player after Mike Trout, and he might even surpass Mike Trout when his career is done, to be determined. But to me, he's the next guy that really has the factor of everything.
And a guy like Ronald Acuna's got, I didn't expect to see him so high up there. Ronald Acuna Jr. has got 163, higher than Mike Schmidt, higher than George Brett, like some of those guys.
Yeah.
Wow.
That surprised me. I'm not, he had a couple not so good seasons. I'm not ready to call him one of the greats of the game one day. He's having a great season right now. It's awesome. I hope he is, but I'm not a guy that I'm going to be chasing after. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think what you said about Ohtani is right on too. And you don't need to have 15 amazing seasons to be hobby relevant. Like if you look at Sandy Koufax, who Adam had on his list, just string 5 or 6 amazing years and doing what he's doing now, pitching 6 or 7 innings, quality starts, and chipping in on the offense as well. It's just something we haven't seen in 100 years. And he has even a few more years like the last few. I think that's probably enough to cement his legacy. He has the international appeal as well. And, Topps, I think, recognizes that too. In the 2022 set, they made him the first and last card on the flagship checklist. And I think that's the first time that's happened since Ted Williams in the 50s. So they clearly recognize the value of his brand and kind of what he brings to the game as far as popularity. So I think, it's his to lose essentially as far as being hobby relevant.
It's so hard to predict too in the future, especially with active players, because if you think about if someone's going to player collect somebody, you're essentially attaching yourself to that player. And you're building a huge collection, and maybe you're displaying it on your wall for your family and your friends to see and everything. So there's so much more that goes into being a player collector of a player than just their stats. It's how cool are they, right? How proud are you to say, yeah, I made the whole run of player X, and here they are. you know. So I think that's a lot of that is with Barry Bonds. I mean, there's not as many people as there. I mean, I guess I wouldn't say should, because it's subjective, but based on his career, right? But like based on what his steroid use and all that stuff, there's just not that many people that want to say, hey, I'm a Barry Bonds collector and here's all his cards, you know, combined with the fact when his cards came out, obviously. So
yeah, it's pretty polarizing to be a Barry Bonds collector. It's tough. You take a lot of heat for it, undeservedly so, because you're just collecting cards and you're collecting the memories of him coming up the bat. And every time he came up the bat, he was hitting a home run in that 73 home run season. It was spectacular to watch.
Yep.
So, you know, it sucks that people take heat for collecting him. He should be collected. I'm not a fan of him going into the Hall of Fame. I don't like people who cheated. If you cheated in school, you fail. You don't pass. So that's my stance, but it doesn't mean that he shouldn't be collected and celebrated as a baseball player. And if he makes the Hall of Fame, that's awesome. I have no problem with that. I feel bad for, you know, like A-Rod. Like, no one collects A-Rod, right? He's like a fire you don't want to touch. For a lot more reason, he's pretty disliked, which is pretty fascinating to me as well. Incredible player too.
I had one more point on Trout that I think is kind of cool. Like I put him on my Mount Rushmore. Like if I had to pick 4 baseball names in the hobby, it would be my top 3 from my list: Mantle, Ryan, Griffey, and I'd put Trout right there. And what's cool about those 4 guys together, if you think about it, Mantle, you know, has been with Topps since the 52 set. He played all the way through. He was still in like the 68 set when Nolan Ryan came into the league. So there was bleed over there, and he kind of hands the torch over to Nolan Ryan. Nolan Ryan lasts all the way, you know, into the 90s. He's still in the league when Griffey comes into the league, kind of passes the torch to him. And Griffey's career actually went all the way until the 2010 season. His last card came in 2010 Topps with the Mariners. And then the very following year, Mike Trout's rookie card comes in 2011 and kind of continues that on. So if you take those 4 guys as like a face of the hobby, they actually bridge from the very first Topps set in 1952 all the way to 2023 Topps and beyond, just with those 4 guys.
And this is why we brought Shane on the show. Right there. Just show us what's going on. That's spectacular. I never looked at it like that. Never thought of it like that. So cool. Imagine displaying all 4 of those cards. Bang, bang, bang. That is awesome.
Yeah,
really
big
cool
deal, Shane. But what do you know about surfing?
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. Let's go surfing next, Dylan.
All right, let's go for surfing, guys. Now, I'm not going to do a top 10. I'm going to talk. I want to do a personal video on surfing, and I'm going to do that to explain surfing. But I'm going to talk about a few guys that are the greatest surfers and mean the most to the surfing world. And this is going to be for guys who were in the past and girls, and guys who are still surfing and girls who are still surfing now. I have a few cards to show. It's not easy to find surfing cards. They're quite expensive on eBay because they're just hard to find. I'm hoping to come across some at the National. I'm going to reach out with some help, asking guys to look for them, because I don't think people will have them that high of a price when they're in the flesh, because most people don't even know who they are. I'm hoping to pick them up, but I'm going to talk about a few of them, put myself in solo mode. First guy is the most important person in all of surfing history, and that is Duke Kahanamoku right here. And this is his 1933 Sports King, and he was a gold medalist in the 100 meter freestyle in 1912. And then 1920, a gold medalist in the 100 meter freestyle. 1920 again, he was the 4x200 meter freestyle gold medalist. Also won silver in 2012, silver in 2024. Just a spectacular swimmer. But more importantly, he's the godfather of surfing. He is the king of surfing. Everyone knows who Duke is. If you go to Hawaii, you'll eat at Duke's restaurant. He brought surfing to the masses. He came over to California and showed, Californians went over to Hawaii and showed them how to surf. And this is him right here, way back. a legend in surfing, and there is no surfing without Duke. And what a great humanitarian, very good human being. So I'm looking to collect a lot more of these. I bought this years ago over here at a card show, probably 5 or 6 years ago, for like $250 back then. I wish I would have found more. They're just really hard to find any of his old cards. So Duke, the king of surfing, no doubt about it. He's the man. And then I also got this right here. This is from the National in 2006. Nate Tops 805 401 or 1985 401. Nate sent me this card, and this is just an awesome card of Duke right here. The next guy, the greatest surfer to ever live, as far as records go, ability goes, and this guy transcends. He is the greatest athlete to ever live on the face of the earth, and you can quote me on that. That is true facts. He's better than Michael Jordan, better than Tom Brady, better than anyone in history in sports. This guy has won 11 world titles. He's 51 years old. He's still on the tour. Means he's on the tour with top 30 guys in the world, still beating guys that are 17. He's probably into his last year here. And that is Kelly Slater. 11 times world champion, 3-time Triple Crown. His first world title was in 1992. I was 12 years old. His last world title was in 2011. And he's also pretty much a professional golfer. This guy is the greatest athlete to ever live. I dare you look up all his stats. Look at him as a man. He is an athlete. You put that guy on the basketball court, he will go toe-to-toe with anyone. You put him on the baseball diamond, he'll go toe-to-toe. This guy is incredible. And surfing's the hardest sport in the world. And that goes without saying. I could go on and on about that, but it's the hardest sport on the planet. So another reason he's the greatest surfer. Another one I want to recognize is Andy Irons. Andy Irons, I believe he won 3 world titles, 2 or 3 world titles. He's from Hawaii. And all these guys, besides Duke, I've surfed with these guys. I've talked with these guys, except for Andy passed away probably about 6 or more years ago. I don't know the date exactly. But he was one of the greatest surfers of all time. Andy Irons, and he had a brother, Bruce Irons, who was on the tour. Just incredible. I'd love to find more of his cards out there. Greatest girl to ever surf in history, not according to the stats. That would be Stephanie Gilmore, who I do not have a card of. She's won more world titles. But Carissa Moore, in my opinion, I think she's on 4 world titles. I don't have the facts in front of me on Carissa Moore. Carissa Moore is the greatest surfer I've ever seen, greatest woman surfer I've ever seen in my life. She's unbelievable. She's going to keep winning world titles. So Carissa Moore, I want to find a bunch more of her cards. Like I said, I should keep all these things in my car because I surf with all these people. Carissa lives on a different island, but regardless, everyone comes over and surfs, and surfing is so cool because you get to interact with these heroes. It's unlike any other sport because there's no stadium. The stadium is the ocean, so you're surfing next to all these people, and I'm personally friends with numerous guys that are the greatest surfers in the world right now on tour. We get to surf with them all the time, and it's just this mutual respect that we give each other in the water, and it takes 30 years of surfing to gain that respect and that clout in the water. It's unlike anything else. I'll get into that deeper later, but those are my surfing picks. And then guys that are surfing right now on tour, probably the greatest technical surfer in the world. His name is Gabriel Medina, and then John Florence and Felipe Toledo. All 3 of those guys are the top of their game right now, and as good as they're going to get. They're just unbelievable. I'd say Gabriel Medina is probably the greatest surfer to ever live as far as technique goes. He's better than Kelly Slater ever was, because the surfers are getting better, but he's on tour with Kelly Slater, and Kelly will beat him in heats. But he's probably the greatest surfer maybe ever in history in all types of waves. And then John Florence, I'd put him number 2. Felipe Toledo, number 3. So, and girls, it'd be Carissa Moore, Stephanie Gilmore. Third one is kind of a toss-up between a bunch of girls. So I'll go into that more on my own channel. But there's your little surfing tutorial. And guys, I'm looking for at the National, hoping to find some cards of these people. And I need your help out there. Anyone going to the National, you find surfing cards, give me a call. I want to go down that row and find it. So there you go.
Is anyone producing surfing cards now? Like if you wanted to go get a Gabriel Medina, is there one out there that you could get or not?
There is. A few years ago, Panini came out with some stickers in Brazil they released. I have them on my watch list. They're not cheap. I just find like they're not cheap because they're hard to find over here. I'm sure if I was in Brazil, they're probably cheap and they're probably everywhere. I don't really know where to go searching for these things. One sticker is going to be like $30, like a soccer sticker, like a cheap soccer Panini sticker. I'm not going to spend $30 for a Gabriel Medina, sticker like that. So they're hard to find. So hopefully I get some help out there. Anyone that has any of those Panini stickers, I would love to get my hands on them at the right price.
And I think this is a great example of just because a player has a lot of collectors doesn't mean their prices are always going to be like the most expensive either. Or it could be sometimes all it takes is like a handful, 2, 3, 4, 5 people with some money to spend that start collecting a player, and they start bidding against each other for the best cards of that player, and that can cause a player's prices to go way up. So it's interesting because especially if a player doesn't have a lot of cards, so price doesn't always equal most collected. In a lot of cases it does, but there's other factors too.
Yeah, like in surfing, it's impossible to find them, so people just
Right.
jack the prices up.
Yep.
It sucks, but they're probably at a garage sale somewhere for nothing.
All right. Well, let's go. We won't spend a ton of time on these sports because compared to baseball, there's just nowhere near the collector base, in my opinion, at least, from what I see out there. But I do collect basketball and football. I know, Shane, you do some of that too. By the way, before we go into it, Dylan, you really should at some point start player collecting Tim Duncan, because Tim Duncan's a big surfer. Great all-time great basketball player. I did a video on recently. I know you watched that. I was saying how underpriced or undervalued his cards are. So if you ever want to collect a basketball player, I think Tim Duncan, I forget what island he's from, but he's from an island and he's a big surfer.
I did not
so
know
that would be your guy, I think, with basketball.
That's why he's so mellow. He learned that in the ocean, you got to be mellow or you're going to get kicked out of lineup or beat up. So you gotta stay in your place. There's a totem pole. Oh, that's really cool. I have a huge stack of I was going through them the other day. I have a huge stack of Tim Duncan cards. So
nice.
Maybe I will.
All right. So guys, I did 5 with basketball. I made a list of the 5 off the top of my head who I felt like were the most collected. Some are obvious, but so number 5, I went with Magic Johnson. Number 4, Wilt Chamberlain. Number 3, Larry Bird. And I'm one of them. I'm one of those collectors. Number 2, Kobe Bryant. And then number 1, Michael Jordan, of course. So I'll pull up the registry in a minute here. But Shane, what did you have for basketball?
Yes, I figured I would probably embarrass myself here with basketball and football because I only dabble a little bit. But I actually had the same top 3 as you. I had Jordan, Kobe, and Bird. 1, 2, 3. Probably living in New England, Bird maybe is a little higher up than he should be. And then for my 4 and 5, I actually had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Shaq, just because he was, popular during that junk wax era, I guess.
And Shaq's a guy who got his cards just got obliterated by the junk wax era. If he came in a different era of cards, he would be one of the most expensive and sought after. But his rookie cards are like mass produced and all that, so that it's kind of like a same thing as like a Barry Bonds without the steroids and stuff. But
in a weird way, you could argue it makes them highly collectible because like I'm not a big basketball guy, but I have a Shaq rookie because it cost me $20 and he's a name from the past that I think was fun. So
great point. All right, so let's just pull up real quick here, Dylan. I changed it to basketball. So I got to resort it though. Give me one sec. So this is by most collected. Same setup here. So yeah, we got like players, vintage players. Wilt Chamberlain, Jerry West, Oscar Robertson, Chamberlain again. So Wilt's got 2 sets in the top 4 for vintage. Bill Russell, Elgin Baylor, Willis Reed, Jerry Lucas. The thing with vintage basketball is there's so few cards for a lot of these players that it's just so different than baseball. That you don't see a big vintage collector base, because like Bill Russell has 3 cards for his whole career that you could get, like mainstream cards. So
right, and you have to open up your wallet to get any of the 3 of them, right?
Yeah, yeah. But if we move over to modern, as we'd expect, you got Michael Jordan with the top 3 sets. And so the top 3 sets, LeBron James, no question, as an active player still, he will be in this list when he retires, as far as collectability. No, I think there's no question about that. But look at a guy like John Morant, modern player who's up there even higher than Kobe Bryant.
I don't even know what he looks like.
Yeah. Well, he's had some issues lately, but he's a young guy. He's been in the league a couple years, but real popular. But Larry Bird's up here. You got Dr. J. That's another one I should have thought about, but Pete Maravich. I think the point with basketball, and we'll see with football too, is at least on the registry, there's nowhere near the amount of participation in the registry as you see with baseball, as you'd imagine. But maybe in the future, as time goes on, and some of the people who got in the hobby recently that are collecting modern basketball, maybe they'll make their way back into vintage like a lot of baseball collectors have. We'll see.
You know what? People have been saying I feel like since I started collecting 30, 40 years ago, basketball's taken over, football's taken over, soccer's the next. It's always going to be baseball is always going to be king in sports cards. I'm saying it here.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with. I mean, it's got the history, and to your point, just because the sport is not as popular, baseball, as far as like what people watch. I know you've mentioned this before, but more kids play baseball still. But as far as what people watch on TV and so forth, football dominates. Basketball, especially globally, is way ahead of baseball. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate over to the hobby as far as collectors. So yeah, there's a disconnect there. Let me just do football real quick. Pull this up. All right, let me give my 5 actually first. So with football is even harder because it's even less of a collector base than especially for vintage than there is for basketball. So I had for my 5 off the top of my head, I had number 5 Jim Brown, who just passed away recently, very recently. Barry Sanders I threw in there, Peyton Manning, Joe Montana, and then Tom Brady as my number 1 as far as 5 that I felt like I get the feel that those guys are the most collected.
Again, ton of overlap here. So I had Barry Sanders at number 5. I had Brett Favre at number 4. Joe Montana number 3, Jim Brown number 2, and I had Tom Brady number 1. But I definitely wanted to get your opinion. I don't pretend to be a football collector at all, but it seems like of the 4 major sports, there's probably like the least consensus who the number 1 overall most popular person in the hobby is. Like with basketball, you got Jordan. Baseball, I think most people would say Mantle. You have Gretzky in hockey. Football, it seems like it's a little more open-ended. I mean, I would agree Tom Brady, but I'm not sure everybody would.
See, I'm glad you asked that. I have a hot take on this. I have a very strong opinion with Tom Brady. Tom Brady, as time goes on, is going to be looked at like Michael Jordan's looked at now, and Mickey Mantle's looked at in baseball. Tom Brady, the issue Tom Brady has right now is he just retired, so it's too new, right? Like all these fans, right? That Tom Brady has killed their team for 20 years. Like I always rooted against Michael Jordan, right, when he was playing because I was a Celtics fan. I knew how great he was, but I disliked him in a way because he was just beating my team all the time, and I was sick of seeing him win. But now here we are, whatever it is, 20 years or however long it's been since he's retired, and I love Michael Jordan. I collect his cards. I never would have, back when he was playing. I collected Larry Bird because he was my best, the best player from the team I rooted for. So I think Tom Brady over time, the Jets fans and the Buffalo Bills fans and all the teams, the Steelers fans that can't stand Tom Brady still because it's so fresh. In 15, 20 years, they're going to just bury the hatchet and say, man, I want some Brady cards in my collection. That guy was the best. He's the GOAT, just like people do with Michael Jordan now. And I feel like Brady will get to that level as far as collectability, but not for a while because he played so long,
Oh, that was a great answer. Yeah, I'm glad I asked.
Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see. Who knows? Maybe he does have a lot of cards too. Brady has many years, 20 years, 20 plus years worth of cards. So yeah, he's got, I guess, that going against him because that dilutes. Michael Jordan had a much shorter career and less years of playing years cards. So, we'll see.
Actually, that's one more point that you just touched on that we didn't talk about, but I think it's kind of important. Is like one big card, just one can almost make you or catapult you onto the list. Like Jordan, you have the 86 Fleer. Griffey, you have the 89 Upper Deck. Like, even Mike Trout, the US 175, the Topps update. So in some cases, really I think that one iconic card can kind of propel you up the list.
Yeah, and people would say, like with Brady, he's got so many rookie cards. That's Michael Jordan has one rookie card, really. Mickey Mantle's got one rookie card, and then obviously the Topps 52 card, which has a life of its own. Brady's got 40 plus, at least different rookie cards, which doesn't sound like a lot compared to the real modern guys, but he definitely has that working against him. So it's going to be, that kind of hurts, I think, some things too. So yeah, maybe he won't get to, a singular card. You look at his contenders card, which is numbered out of 100, the championship auto, but there's just so few people that can play in that arena that it's not as going to be an iconic card as like the 52 Topps or the 86 Fleer Michael Jordan. So I don't think Brady will ever probably get to their levels, but as far as football goes, I think he'll continue to separate himself against anyone else in the football hobby. You look at one guy that surprised me, but it shouldn't, is Walter Payton. Walter Payton, all-time great Chicago Bears running back. He missed. John Newman from Sports Card Nation told me this, and I didn't know it. But he missed. He was a running back, and he played, I think it was like over 10 seasons, and he missed one game in his career. Think about that. Think about how durable and how tough he was. You look at the running backs now, and if you play fantasy football, you have a running back on your team. Like every other week, he's out. He's missing a game because he's injured. Walter Payton missed one game in his career, and it doesn't surprise me because Chicago Bears, great sports city, great franchise, and he's ahead of Barry Sanders, even Joe Montana, Tom Brady. There's more guys that are building the Walter Payton basic set than the Tom Brady master set. Of course, the Tom Brady master set's a joke because there's way too many cards in it. So it's not collectible. People don't want to start doing it because it's just like, I think there's like 800 different cards in it. So that's another factor where Walter Payton has, is probably, I don't know, maybe 20 cards or 10 cards in that set. So it's much more achievable and an attractive set to build. But yeah, so I just find this interesting, to look at some of these names here on the list, and guys that Patrick Mahomes, LeBron James, those are two that come to my head, football, basketball, that will, I think, be in the, the inner circle list of collectible guys after their careers are over. So, yeah.
I think it's cool to talk about the championships. Baseball, it almost is irrelevant because one man can't change the course of a team. You get 4 chances to come up the bat per game. Only a pitcher can have a little more influence. That's 1 every 7 days. Where a basketball player and football player, they can touch the ball the whole time. So you got Tom Brady's of the world. That's why I think, this goes common sense, right? Football, you're touching the ball all the time as a quarterback. You make the game. And basketball, you can give the ball to the guy the whole time. So they really have to win those championships. That's why Tom Brady, I think you're right, is going to be known as the greatest football player to ever live because of the championships. Well deserved, because one man in those two sports can make a giant difference. Unlike baseball, it doesn't matter. You have to have a whole team beside yourself.
Yeah, like in baseball, Ken Griffey Jr., Ted Williams, they never won a World Series.
Right.
Ken Griffey Jr. never even made a World Series, and yet it really doesn't affect. People still want to collect them. So
Yep.
You're right, 100%.
Mike Trout's barely,
it's a solo sport.
Yep.
Basically.
Barely sniffed the playoffs, and people pay hundreds of dollars for his base Topps rookie card from 2011. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I just thought that was an interesting thing to look at. Yeah, and I'd be anyone who watches this. I really would be interested in the comments to get your take on maybe guys we didn't mention or thoughts on this list here. I'll put there's 3 links that I'll put Dylan in the comments so people can get to these links and scroll down further and look at which players are the most player collected on the PSA set registry. Again, it's not the end all be all, but it does give a little insight that I think is interesting, and maybe certain people haven't looked at it. So it would be probably pretty good to put in there as a note.
Yeah, it's awesome. I thought it was really cool. I mean, it kind of, I mean, that's the perfect place to get your answers right there. So, dude, that was fun. That was awesome. I learned a whole bunch. I know nothing about football and basketball. So for me, I got to learn, and having Shane on here again, busting out some crazy factoids. Now I want to get my Mickey Mantle, Nolan Ryan, Ken Griffey Jr., and Mike Trout rookie cards all lined up. Oh, of course I don't have Mickey Mantles, but at least the 68 and the 68, and get those cards like you were showing up. That was the coolest fact that you learned the whole night. So thank you, Shane. That was sick. Really fun. Any last words, you guys?
No, I think it was an awesome topic. It's really fascinating to kind of think about what differentiates somebody in the hobby versus in their sport. And they're definitely 2 different things, and a variety of factors that go into it. So I think it's a pretty interesting topic.
I really want a Sport Kings card now from that set.
Dude, they're the best. And the other night they didn't bring the set up. I was like, it's like one of the greatest sets ever made. It's probably one of the prettiest sets ever made. I was just like, come on, guys. And it's got all these different athletes, baseball stars. It's got Ruth in it. It's got everybody you need. Oh, it's a killer set.
There's actually 4 hockey players on the checklist, and I collected those years back. And I was laughing when you showed yours because I have them in the same grade, PSA 4, that you have your Duke in. But it's just a killer set.
They all come in 4s, I think. Yeah, that's a killer set. I love the hockey ones. I almost wanted to go after the whole set, but I hit the brakes on that one. I didn't need like a all-time chess player, I was like, do I really need that? Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you guys for joining me, and Shane and Adam. Absolute blast. Thank you guys out there for listening. We really appreciate it. Please leave comments, maybe future episodes you guys want us to talk about or show. It's always fun to hear from everybody, and we thank you so much. So that's it, guys. Until next time, double shaka. You.
Take it easy.